So you may know me as the girl who built a multi-million-dollar personal brand in under 2 years, grew 1.7 million followers, and made 2.6 million in revenue off of digital products. But what you don't know about me is the 5 years of lessons and failures and trials and ugly crying that it took to get this overnight success. And since social media is so glamorized, I wanted to completely de-glamorize my journey for any woman who knows she's been meant for more and is maybe in the middle of the journey where I was like, is it ever gonna happen? Why do I keep failing? When is this gonna come? Or an entrepreneur who's also in the middle of the climb of the mountain. Because to be honest, the path to success is never, ever linear, and you will learn that today. Trust me on that. So let's get into the full story, the full breakdown, not the polished version, not the cute girl boss version, the unpolished story of how I became an overnight success and how you, if you're in the middle of your journey, are exactly where you need to be. Let's start from the beginning. In high school, I had a 2.7 GPA, not because I wasn't smart, but because the school system wasn't made for people like me. People who question authority, people who question everything, people who think differently, people who can't sit still. I was quite literally voted most likely to end up in the dean's office. I was a bad girl. I was a naughty girl. But really, at the end of the day, I was someone who thought for themselves and didn't like being told what to do. And if that is you, that is one of the first telltale signs that you are meant to be an entrepreneur, because you think for yourself. And nothing hates people who think for themselves more than a school system that profits off of you fitting into a mold and regurgitating back information in order to be a good student. Fast forward to college, I ended up doing 2 years. I was a great student, 4.0 GPA. I made great friends. I was having the time of my life, but there was always a thought in the back of my head that questioned, should I be here? Is this for me? Are the people around me living the life that I dream of? And the answer was always no, but I didn't know what else to do. So my second year summer, I ended up backpacking through Asia for 3 months. I had the time of my life. I tasted freedom, like real freedom. And that trip changed me. Funny stint of the story is that the summer before, I asked a psychic what I should do, and she told me to transfer to a Buddhist school in Boulder, Colorado called Naropa University, which is a batshit crazy school. I would not recommend going to it. But because I'm insane, as you know, I went ahead and I did it anyway. After that trip in Asia, even though I didn't want to against everything in my bones, I decided to say, okay, I'll go back to college, I'll finish, and then I'll travel. Turns out that meditating an hour a day only brought up the question of what the fuck am I doing here even louder into my head. And it got to a point where it was so intense that I was bawling every day, crying, miserable, to the point where I finally had to tell my family, I have to drop out. I have to take a semester off. And every single person in my family, even one of my family friends who dropped out and became an entrepreneur, was terrified for me. They said, please, Blair, don't do this. Don't do this, please. We're so scared for you. But the truth is, I was more terrified of living a life I was so miserable in than having everyone who loved me disagree with my choices. So I made the scariest decision in my life and I dropped out. And funnily enough, 2 years later, every single person who once doubted me told me it was the best decision I ever made in my life. And that is one of the biggest lessons I want to teach you here, is if you want to live your dream life, you cannot let other people tell you what to do, because you are the only one who knows what you want, and do not listen to people who do not have the life you have, quite simply, or you will end up with theirs. Now, right after I dropped out, COVID hit, and I wanted to start traveling, but I couldn't because we were in COVID, so I started Uber driving. Here's a pic of me Uber driving. I had a $1,300 rent that I could barely afford. And I got to a breaking point working an Uber shift and making like $200 after 6 to 7 hours of driving, spending my own gas, wasting my own car's value. And I sat down and I asked the universe, I was worldly at the time, I didn't believe in God per se. I said, please universe, I do not want to live paycheck to paycheck. Bring me anything. And this is where you will learn to be careful for exactly how you ask for things, because the devil may have answered. Because the very next day I went to a coffee shop with a friend, and my friend's phone, her Cash App was going ding, 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 ding. And I said, who's sending you money 5 times in a row? Please tell me what's going on. She showed me a Twitter page where she was posting pictures of her feet. She said, this makes me 10K a year. So within that time frame, I had decided that's it. I want to pursue social media. I've always had the drive and desire to be prominent on social media. I didn't know how I was gonna get there, but I said, okay, I'm gonna drive Uber, I'm gonna start this little feed pics thing, see what happens, and I'm gonna make YouTube videos. And this was the start of me making one of my first YouTube videos on love and spirituality and emotional talks. And within that time frame, I started my other Twitter that eventually became a really very big part of my story. So fast forward, I was making YouTube videos, I wasn't getting a lot of traction, I was still driving Uber and, you know, doing my little feed pic thing. I was only making maybe like 2 to 3K a month. And I was allowing my savings to slowly dwindle until I knew my mom was retiring and moving back to Wisconsin. So I said, Boulder, I think I'm done with it. I'll go move up to Wisconsin with my mom and just see where this next chapter of my life takes me. Right before I went to go live with my mother, I had $900 in my bank account and my phone broke. And I had to spend the last $900 to my name on a phone. And then I was living in my mother's condo in Wisconsin. And all of a sudden, the first time of like not living around a parent for a very long time, I felt claustrophobic. I finally realized, holy shoot, I have to get out of here. I have to get my own place, but I have no money to my name. So my mom said, maybe you should get a waitressing job. I said, okay, I'll get a waitressing job. And while I was doing that, I got back into like heavy manifestation videos where I was like watching creators similar to me, you know, telling you like anything's possible, do this, do your journaling, do your manifestation entries. And I was like, okay, what I do have is my feet pic page. I've seen girls doing phenomenal feet pics and they're making like 10 to 20K a month. I'm gonna try and go all in on it because this seems like my best avenue. And little did I know, this experience in my life was teaching me in a Mr. Miyagi way all about branding, all about client avatars, all about sales psychology, and all about content creation that goes viral. And so I said, that's it. I'm gonna take my feet pic money and I'm gonna go balls to the wall with my YouTube travel content creation. And if you guys ever wanna actually have me do a reaction video to some of these videos, they're unbelievably cringe, but so funny. Let me know in the comments below because it is something I want to do and I think it would be really inspiring to you. Now, while I was traveling to Mexico, Solo, Boulder, and even Spain, Portugal, and London, I didn't have the discipline and work ethic to really keep up with the YouTube channel while my life was in shambles, while COVID was still going on and you had to get tested at every border. And editing long form videos was a skill that takes a lot of patience and persistence. And I was getting crickets. I was getting like 124 views. So I finally said, that's it. I'm lonely, I'm done traveling. I just want a home base. I went back to Wisconsin and decided to move to Chicago still living off of my phenomenal feed pic money that was making me anywhere from still 5 to 10K a month. While living in Chicago, I decided to start going after a music career. And even right before I moved to Chicago, I was about to accept a scholarship to a school in Madrid to finish my college degree. But it just didn't feel right. It still didn't feel right. And I had to say no at the very last minute because it just didn't feel like that was my path. And I was scared out of my mind. I'm still telling you, I was like, this is a no, but I don't know what a yes is. But I will follow my intuition even though I'm scared out of my mind. And thank goodness it paid out. If you are scared, please just take this video as testimony that you might not see where you're going, but you have to trust where you're being led. So I said no to the other college scholarship, and I went to Chicago and said, frick it. I love music. I'd been a singer since I was like 5 or 6. I grew up around music. And I was like, I'm gonna try and pursue a singing career. So I was still living off my feed pic money, throwing it all into creating an album. I spent 20K on an album. I even tried starting a TikTok page for it. So again, I tried to sell out. I said, well, let's try real estate because real estate agents get rich. Turns out real estate sucks. Personally, not a big fan of it. But because I utilized TikTok, I became one of the most successful new agents at the firm because I got all of my leads from TikTok. I was even able to take a negotiation to get my percentage down on the brokerage because I posted one TikTok and blew up overnight and generated 600 leads. This was the real mini start of me realizing that TikTok was a gold mine, that I had a good personality on TikTok, that all of the long form editing I was doing didn't have to be painstaking if I moved my personality and my social media skills to short form, such as TikTok. So once I realized I was blowing up on TikTok, I even took another one of my ADHD rabbit holes, because if none of you know this about me, obviously, I'm an ADHD type B girl, okay? I've had a million rabbit holes, I've had a million obsessions, and one of my things that I would do with my friends is I would read their birth charts or their relationship charts, and I said, I'm gonna try to do a astrology TikTok. That blew up. I started getting a bunch of leads, but I was doing like one-to-one work, and it just felt like I didn't know how to price, and the work felt like a lot of work for how much I was being paid. And so again, I didn't really continue that. I tried to do the stand-up comedy thing. I kept doing the music. Nothing was working, nothing was working, nothing was working, okay? Even though I made 50 grand from real estate, I realized I don't know if I wanna go down this road, because Chicago is cold, quite frankly. And I don't want a career that ties me to any specific location. So throughout this process, I really learned what I don't like and what I really like. And what I really loved more than anything was content creation. But yet, my Findom and Feet Pics Bratty Regina George persona was still making me the most money and holding me up. So this is when the final breaking point hits. So it was the winter of 2023. I was so bad at saving for taxes. One of the huge things I teach in my program is the mindset and understanding of how to save for taxes as an entrepreneur, because I quite literally went broke 2 years in a row when I was just doing the feed pick stuff, because I was making 6 figures, but I didn't know how to save for taxes. So every time when tax season came around, I was dead broke. And so I got to a breaking point, 2023, tired of real estate, tired of Chicago, tired of feeling broke, and I saw a video of this girl on TikTok, and she said, I make $2 million a year selling eyelashes, in a street interview, and something in my brain just exploded. Recently, I had met someone that I was dating who told me, I wanna make 100K a month. Does that sound crazy to you? And I was like, yeah, that sounds crazy to me. Like, what are you talking about? Like, I've never even heard anyone say that. But the law of exposure means that when you start hearing people who dream big, when you start hearing about these realities you don't know, it's planted in your brain, you can't get rid of it. So I heard about this girl making 2 million. I heard about my ex who made 100 grand and we'd broken up, and it was heartbreaking. I was in a really dark space, and it was winter in Chicago. Okay? I was losing my mind. And I said, that's it. I will never be broke again. I also know that I need to get out of the spicy industry. I will be so honest with you. Doing the feed pics and the Findom thing for so long was something that you will find out soon really did eventually grate on my soul, but we're not at that part of the story yet. I said, all right, I need to get out of the spicy industry. I want to make a lot of money, and I just got to get out of this hole. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go all in on the Findom and feed pics, and I'm going to run this shit like a business. I'm going to show up like a business. I'm going to brand it like a professional. And guess what? In 1 month, I went from 8K a month to 30K a month. The month after that, 32K a month. And I let myself live 1 month in my dream life, where I actually ended up spending 30K. And all of a sudden I realized I need to make more than 30K a month to live my dream life. I went off to LA, even though I had a 4K rent in Chicago, and I spent 30 grand, seemed really financially irresponsible, but it changed my life. Came back to Chicago, so depressed, cried in my bedroom, and I was like, please. And this is another moment I pleaded and I reached out to God, and who knows, maybe the devil answered again. Maybe the devil answered again. But this is what happened. I said, please show me what I can do for the world. I've been living a selfish life, and I'm also still broke. Please show me what I can do for the world and make me rich, and I will do it. After a week of also seeing a bunch of reels on my page, starting to see reels on MRR and digital products and thinking, I wish I had a course to sell, but I have nothing. All of a sudden, I got the light bulb moment. I should try to see if people would buy a course on how I made my Bratty Regina George brand and made 30K a month off of feet and Findom. I should just see if people would buy that. And within the next 4 days, I built out a course, and within the first month, I made 30 grand. The second month, I made 100 grand in a month. And that was my goal. I said, I want to make 100K a month by the end of the year. Made it by my second month. You know why? Because I mastered viral content. By that point, after doing so many niches, I finally hit the jackpot on virality. And unfortunately, it wasn't on exactly what I wanted, but I did get what I want in a way, right? So for the following year and a half, I was selling this course. I was growing over 1.4 million followers. I made 2 million in revenue until I got to another breaking point where I realized I don't think what I'm doing is right. My frontal cortex developed, and even though my course had women constantly thanking me, Blair, I just made 30K in a month, Blair, da da da. The whole course made 3.6 million, Blair, you changed my life, I left a DV situation. I knew that I made the course originally, and this is something that's hard for me to say because it requires a lot of humility. I made the course originally because I knew I had to get out of the spicy industry. And I thought the best way to do that is to make as much money as quickly as possible and end the final capitalizing off of what I had done for the 4 years. Something I did master. Let's go out with a bang. But I was so mentally disturbed during that time. I was constantly questioning if I was a good person. I was breaking down. I even went through a stint where I got like a little bit of a drug addiction because I had to dissociate so strongly from what I was doing because I knew I wasn't influencing in the way that was the best. So after hitting one of the highest months I'd ever hit, which was 300 grand in a month, my grandma passed. And I asked myself, what do I want to be remembered for when I die? And the truth was, I didn't want to be remembered as the girl who made all this money or who was super powerful or who sold feed pics. I wanted to be remembered as a really good person. My grandma was an incredible woman. She was a woman who had strong morals. She would slap me in the face if she knew what I was doing. And I realized I have to shut this down and I have to do what I know is right, which is not teaching women to go into the spicy industry. Because I know other people will have opinions on this, but for me, if I have to influence the world, if I have a platform, I felt the need to responsibly step up and actually take ownership of like, I have a bigger ripple effect in the world, so I need to use it, honestly. And when I started the course, a large part of it was if I can grow this to 1 million in revenue and prove to myself that I can do this, I can now teach women how to do what I did because it's a business model that worked. I knew it was a business model that worked. And now, after ending that product, even though I was scared, honestly, I was really scared, and completely repivoting my life direction around my new values, around something that I actually think is the best way to make money, which is growing a personal brand, period. Even if you don't monetize it with a digital product, growing a personal brand will change your fucking life more than anything. Understanding viral content, branding, and monetizing it with digital products. This is a system that will work across any niche. I could have done this with my astrology business. I could have done this with my manifestation business. I could have done this with real estate, but I didn't know the system yet, and I hadn't mastered the content frameworks. After ending yet another chapter of my life that I was terrified to end, I opened my product, and the first 10 days we opened, I made $500,000. And that just comes to show, if you are a woman in the spicy industry who wants to get out, and I know almost all of you do, you're just scared, you can absolutely rebrand. You can never, ever not have a time to rebrand. If you're an ADHD girl who is like, I don't know if I will ever become anything because I feel messy and scattered, your chaotic genius is your rock star magic, especially in content creation. If you're a woman who has tried a million things and is in the middle of anxiety and wondering, why isn't it working out? When am I gonna get there? You are being built into the woman who is going to be able to hold the weight of the crown she is asking for. You're being chiseled. If you are someone who wants to build a personal brand, just know that, yeah, it might take you some time of failing and trying different things, but it is literally building you into the version of yourself you need to be to hold the weight of this, to earn the capital, to pay editors so you don't have to edit, because that's not my skill set, to allow you the freedom to be creative, to live the life you want, and to do what feels morally just to you. That is my story, and now I can honestly say we're at the beginning of a new chapter that I think is gonna be even more phenomenal. I pledged to myself, to my creator, that I will be using this platform to free and liberate and empower women and do as much good as I can for the world. And I hope you're along with me for the ride. And the very minimal thing I want to do for you, and I hope I did for you, was not just inspire you, but educate you and awaken a limitless possibility within yourself. Because I don't see any other reason why I'm here. I'm really not special. I just didn't quit. I just had the delusion to try, and I didn't quit. I could have quit. But I'm here now, So please don't give up and follow along with me on this journey, because we're just starting something new. Now that I do have some capital, now that I do have some following, I have some really fun creative ideas that I'm gonna be bringing together soon, more than just my program. And I'm just so excited to share them with you. So I hope that you feel like besties now, because we are besties. And I can't wait to hear your success stories. And I hope, just like me when I was younger, watching people on YouTube, some people that I never even interacted with again, I know there were videos out there that I saw that changed my brain chemistry and changed the trajectory of my life, even if I didn't click the follow button. If you feel compelled to put your voice on the internet, just know that creating a brand is so much less about you than it is about others. Because sometimes creativity is simply asking you to be a vessel for what is being popped into your brain so that someone else can receive it. This video isn't for me. This might change someone's life. This might stop someone from quitting. This might incite a revolution in your mind and literally be the starting point video to you looking back 2 years from now and saying, oh my God, I'm a millionaire because I started my personal brand. So let's get up, let's get to work, let's get fired up, ladies, and I will see you around. I hope so. Don't forget to follow, like, subscribe if you want more content like this. And I love you and I wish the best for you. I don't even know you, but I love you. And I root for you. And I hope you know that.